Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the Camera Store. Today we're excited to talk about Sony's latest prime lens, the FE 21.8.
The Sony FE 20mm f1.8 G-series lens is Sony's latest in their prime lineup, and this is their widest prime lens to date. Sony has really pushed this idea of having one mount, and so this lens, like the others, can work on both their full-frame cameras as well as their APS-C cropped cameras.
Now today I'm shooting on the A6400, which of course is a crop sensor camera, which makes it a 30mm equivalent lens. Now my favorite focal length is 35mm, so it's much closer for that, so it's like a comfort zone for me. Now I know you like the wider angle, so you're sticking with the full frame.
Yes, I like having kind of a wider angle perspective without too much distortion. I find is really nice. It's great for street photography and travel, things like that. And so I'm really happy today to be working with this lens. And so we're going to give you our hands-on feel of what this lens is like in terms of image quality, handling, and overall performance.
This is a G-series lens, not a G-master lens, but we are seeing a lot of similarities between those two series.
Yeah, the chassis and the weather sealing of this lens is very similar, and so you have a nice protected lens. I also love that we have this custom function button, and so you can change it between being like your focus hold button, or you can program it to something else if you want. We also have a dedicated autofocus switch, and on the other side you have the option between having a clickable aperture ring or a de-clicked aperture ring.
Now us photographers really like the clickable aperture ring because we sort of set it and sort of lock it in at what we want, but videographers love the clickless aperture. As they're changing exposures on the fly, they can seamlessly go from one aperture to another. Now I do find if I want to go into auto as my option, it's a little more of a push than I think it should be. I think it's a little too stiff. I think it should be a little looser.
I mean, I think it's fine. Dave's being a little fussy here. But I do think that the click feel of this aperture ring is really nice. And I like having that classic tactile feel to any lens. I also really like that this is a 67mm filter thread. The overall size of this lens is really nice. It pairs beautifully with the A7 III. It's a really nice form factor overall.
Yeah, and even on a crop sensor body, which is slightly smaller than your full frame, it still feels really nice. It's a good size lens. Now this is not a G-master lens, it's a G-series lens, but it inherits a lot of the technology that's in the G-master, including the linear thrust motors for focusing, and it works great.
Yeah, it's very fast, it's quiet, and for video, it actually acquires focus in a really nice, natural way, and so we're really happy with that performance. From a manual focusing perspective, the lens has a lot of throw to it.
It is like a long way around. What do we think? It's 160 degrees?
Yeah, 160 degrees. So you're
Oh.
really cranking it in order to get that. The other thing is it does have some focus breathing. And so you can see here that it definitely is noticeable. But you know, there's not really a lot of lenses out there in this focal length that actually don't have focus breathing. I think the only one that I can think of is the Panasonic 10 to 25mm lens that actually has focus breathing correction built into it. However, that lens is for micro four thirds. And so I think you'd be pretty hard pressed unless you went up to cinema lenses to find a 20mm lens that doesn't have focus breathing at all.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do that, the lens is gonna be significantly bigger.
And more expensive.
Although this isn't a macro lens, it does have a very decent minimum focusing distance at 7.5 inches, which allows you to get some really cool perspectives and get really nice and tight in certain subjects.
In terms of the image quality and sharpness from this lens, I'm pretty impressed. Even at f1.8, we're seeing really good corner-to-corner sharpness. And when you stop it down f2.8, we're seeing even better results. Now, you're not going to get the same kind of hyper sharpness that you're going to see from Sony's telephoto primes, but in a focal length like this, I think it's performing really well. The other thing is this lens is really well corrected for flare, and it also has minimal color abnormalities, things like fringing, and so the overall image quality that's produced from a lens like this is outstanding. The other thing that I'm really happy with is the look that this lens delivers. It has really nice character to it, and I appreciate that this is kind of more of a natural frame. It has very little distortion, and so if you're someone that's like a real estate photographer, or even if you want to do kind of large format art reproductions, I think this would be a really great option. It does kind of give you still more of a natural perspective while being an ultra wide angle. The other thing is this lens has a 9-blade circular aperture, and so it's producing really nice smooth bokeh balls.
From a video standpoint, I think the form factor of this lens works great. If I have a gimbal like a Ronin SC, for instance, this is going to be perfect for that. If I have to float something much bigger like a huge cinema lens potentially, that adds more complications. So I love it for that.
Yeah, and it is nice and lightweight, and so if you're doing some handheld video work, then this is a great option. And if you're vlogging or you're filming a subject that's fairly tight in the frame, it's going to bring in more of that environment, especially when you have to contend with cropped video footage.
Now we've had some time to shoot with this lens. You're in your full frame, super wide, and me on my crop sensor, not so wide, right? What are your impressions with this lens after shooting today?
You know, I was thinking about that too. Compared to the 24mm lens that came out a while ago, I think I would actually go with this just for the money savings, because I feel like you wouldn't really be missing out on too much, and you do get a slightly wider angle focal length.
Yeah. Now I like the fact that it is part of their one mount kind of solution here. So if you're working with a crop sensor and you're dreaming of moving into a full frame eventually, this lens will take you there. And it's great on a crop sensor, and it's just as good on a full frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this lens would be really good for casual users. I mean, I know pros and content creators would find some really good uses for it, but I think it's just a really fun lens. It'd be great for traveling with. I think this would be a great form factor and kit to bring around with you.
There are some other fast wide prime lenses on the market, especially for the crop sensor cameras. But there are some sacrifices with that. They're only for crop sensors, so if you want to move into a full frame eventually, then you need to ditch those lenses and buy something else. Here you can grow with that system if you want to go with that. And this one is fully packed with all the features that you want. You're not lacking anything, and the image quality is fantastic.
Yeah, and on the full frame side of things, I think that there's a lot of opportunities to use this lens in some creative ways. One of them that I think would be really fun is using this lens to shoot astrophotography. Now, we've been in March in Calgary with a lot of overcast days, so we haven't been able to test that, but because this is a bright lens and it's ultra wide on full frame, I think it'd be a really good option.
Let us know your thoughts on this new lens from Sony. Does it have everything you wanted it? Is it overpriced? Are there better options out there?
Yeah, let us know by commenting below.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can catch you again very soon.